Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 308 of the Canadian Football Countdown, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network and the Alternative Football Network. Ryan and Adam here with you this week. Week 19 CFL preview, stretch drive of the CFL season. 3 weeks left to go. For a lot of fantasy leagues, 2 weeks left to go, so it's crunch time now. And we've got your CFL fantasy fix and your betting picks against the spread over under. Really good week last week for both Adam and I in that department. Good week for some in fantasy, good week not so much for others. We'll get into that all in a little bit here as well. Adam, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing good, Ryan. Been watching a little bit of what do you call stomach settling stuff, like Blue Jays games. They're pretty easy on the stomach and everything lately. No, they haven't. Anyways, and honestly, been busy on the farm, been getting back to work here. Lots of stuff going on, and of course, some more CFL football. And getting ready for next week, which we'll probably talk about later on, maybe a bit as well.
Yes, exciting times next week. Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, in Winnipeg. I wonder what that could mean for the podcast. Stay tuned for the end of the show, maybe, and we will talk about that there. You mentioned the Toronto Blue Jays. Last week's episode, I made an egregious error when early on in the show, because Trey was wearing his Toronto Blue Jays gear. I asked Trey not to spoil the results of the game that evening, to which he told me that the Blue Jays were not playing until Saturday, which shows just how little I know about baseball. So to correct myself from that error, because here on the Canadian Football Countdown, we live to grow constantly, I have thrown myself into baseball fandom for the past week and am quite possibly the world's number one Detroit Tigers fan now. So big win earlier today. Go Tigers. I can't tell you much about the team, but I know they're in the playoffs. Go Tigers.
Absolutely. I mean, Tigers looked really good today. What did they win? 8-1, 8-3 or something? I can't even, maybe 8-4. I know they beat the Mariners.
9-3. 9-3.
9-3. Okay.
Yeah.
No, yeah. For sure. So, I mean, yeah, go Tigers. I mean,
roar.
And right now, currently, I'm just kind of keeping an eye on the side of my thing, just kind of keeping an eye on a Blue Jays game. Kind of looks pretty good, but it's also the Blue Jays, and I've seen them do sillier. So, yeah, I think we're in the bottom of the eighth. So,
all right. Well, it's crunch time there. We are live tonight talking CFL football. We got the baseball talk out of the way, so now we can talk some CFL. Brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Game Time TV. You can learn more at GameTimeTV.ca or Facebook.com/GameTimeTVMB. We will take your comments and questions in our live chats throughout the night, so feel free to send those in as the show goes along. Before we go any further, we do want to acknowledge that the Canadian Football Countdown is brought to you from Treaty 1 territory, traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, the homeland of the Métis Nation, as well as from Treaty 4 territory, traditional territory of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Métis Nation. Also, if you're looking for additional content between this weekly episode, head to the Discord community. The link is in the episode description. It's free to join us over there, talking CFL, CFL Fantasy. Had a lot of good start-sit questions in CFL Fantasy chatter going on in the Discord earlier today. NFL talk. That's throughout NFL weekends, obviously, as well. And the pretty lively MLB channel right now with baseball playoffs going on and me learning how baseball playoffs work. So if you want to see that, come to the Discord, because who knew that it was the second round of the playoffs and it was a 5-game series. I learned new things every single day. All right, let's talk CFL Week 19. Adam is still here if you're watching the video, just, I believe, having some video issues, so he's turned his camera off. So you just get to look at my face and a little circle for Adam, so I apologize that you have to look at my face still, but I am here nonetheless. And Adam is here nonetheless. So let's talk injury, news, and notes to kick off Week 19 CFL Fantasy. This segment might be a little less organized than normal because typically I try to go through the injury reports and take out the most notable pieces, but did not have the time to do so today. So I've got them pulled up and we'll just go through them on the fly. First game of the week, Toronto and Saskatchewan. kicks it off on Friday night. I think the biggest news is on the Toronto side. Nick Arbuckle is shut down for the rest of the season here, Adam. And this week, it's going to be Jarrett Daggy getting the start after he basically started last week. I mean, Arbuckle got injured on the very first play of the game, I think, or on the first series, and Daggy came in and threw 49 passes. Many of them went into hands of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Many of the plays ended up with him on the turf, but he also did complete a number of passes and put up a decent effort for that offense. So he's going to get the start this week. Sounds like Tucker Horn might get the start in the final week of the regular season. Why not? Toronto's out of the playoffs at this point in time. Other notables for Toronto, Wynton McManus is out. That's a big one. Supposedly he's been playing.
And not only is Wynton McManus out, Wynton McManus has also been shut down for the season as well with that injury. So,
yeah, I mean, he's been playing basically injured all season long. So that's a notable one there. On the defensive side, Anthony Lanier still out for them on the D line as well. Makai Polk did not practice on Tuesday with a shoulder injury, but he was full participant on Wednesday and is ready to go. I think he had 14 targets from Jarrett Daggy last week, which might be close to a season high among all wide receivers. DeMonte Coxey showing up on the injury report, meaning maybe he's getting closer to being back, but he is still out this week. Meanwhile, the Saskatchewan Roughriders secondary seems to continue to have some injury issues. Tavon Campbell out once again. Jackson Ford out again. Nelson Lacombo out again. Roland Milligan Jr. out with a foot and knee injury. Somehow Marcus Sayles, despite getting injured every week and never practicing, finds a way to be available still. So a small light in a corner of darkness for the secondary for the Riders there. Dante Myers questionable. And what else am I looking at here on the injury report for the Riders? The kicking game. Interesting week for the kicking game. Brett Lauder, missed last week due to injury. I think I just heard Adam sighing in the background. I can't see it on video, but Brett Lauder missed last week's game. Campbell Fair got his shot, performed even worse than Brett Lauder has thus far. And this week they signed an American kicker, I believe. I'm trying to find the name. Michael Hughes. Huge signing for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Continue the puns on the kicker names there. Hopefully that's better, I guess, for them.
Yeah, and with that play, essentially the Riders can't even play him right now. He's an American. So until you see Tavon Campbell or somebody else in the Canadian side of the football come in, they can't play him. So it's a good signing for the future, I suppose. I mean, he was an Appalachian State football kicker kind of legend. I don't know, from what it sounded like. They also made a big signing in their defensive backs this week, adding in, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name. Leon?
Was it Nafis Lyon? Was that who it
Lions
was?
Or something like that? Yeah, he came from Montreal. He was with their Grey Cup team. Definitely had some big amount of tackles and everything. So overall, pretty good. So we'll see how this ends. But yeah, no.
What's the level of concern this week with the defensive backfield with all of these injuries? Keeping in mind that they are facing Jarrett Daggy. I think I and many others last week thought that maybe that Ottawa offense was going to feast on that secondary due to some of these injuries, and they made life miserable for Drew Brown in that game. Now it's Daggy playing against them. Are you concerned about the secondary or not really because of the opponent?
The quarterback will definitely hurt the Argonauts. I mean, I don't think that Jarrett Daggy's going to have a very fun game. Sounds like Marcus Sayles is still available in this one, so that's a good sign. Brooks Jr. really had a good game against Ottawa as well, and that really was a good thing to see because it's going to be a little while until I think we're going to see Roland Milligan back if it's going to be playoffs, is my guess, because that didn't look good for Milligan Jr., and that's a big piece for the Rough Riders secondary. Lions, I think, is going to have to step in and try to be something out there. I know he just got in. Hopefully he can learn most of the playbook pretty fast. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens here. I like what the Riders show, and I like what they can do. but there's still a chance. And I mean, you look, Jared Dagey had a lot of yards last week, even though he was the kind of, as everybody says, as this guy was a scapegoat. He still had a lot of plays. So
49 pass attempts help with that.
Yeah, true. And what do you call? They still have Brown, who's been a great running back. I mean, we'll probably be bringing his name up here pretty soon, I would think. So sure. This is not a gimme for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. I know everything looks in a good, positive way, except for, some of the injuries. But you know what? It's still not a gimme for the Riders, for sure. So
some crazy spreads this week, by the way. When we're going to get to betting in the second half of the show, we have 2 spreads this week over 10 points, and I am terrified going to drag out the fantasy section as long as possible so I can delay making those picks. Second game of the week, so we have Friday game, 2 Saturday games, and a Monday game this week. So we'll talk about that Monday game here a little bit. That makes things interesting. But on Saturday, we've got Calgary and Hamilton going head-to-head here on the Stampeders side of things. I thought Malik Henry was maybe going to make it on the active roster last week, but after a full week of practice, but then he did not make the game day roster. He missed the first day of practice this week, was a full participant on Wednesday, and is on the injury report with non-injury related. So something to continue to monitor. I really hope we see him back in the lineup at some point yet this year. I really want good things for the guy who was at one point one of the top receivers in the CFL. Dedrick Mills was limited and then a full participant with shoulder injury. Derek Moncrief on the defense, that's a big name. Did not practice 2 days, non-injury related as well. Damon Webb at defensive back, pectoral injury, did not practice 2 days. That's a huge loss if he's unable to go. And the newly added Lorenzo Malden IV was limited on Wednesday. So continue to monitor that, but that's not going to help a defense that seems to be giving up quite a few points lately and quite a few fantasy points to have some of those big names out of the lineup. Hamilton Tiger Cats, nothing really notable from a injury fantasy notable perspective here. The one guy on the Hamilton Tiger Cats that I feel like in the few games I've watched of theirs recently, I've heard brought up more than anybody else is Philip Osai on the defensive line, who was a monster against the Argos last week. Seems like maybe he tweaked his oblique a little bit, but he was back to full practice on Wednesday, so he should be back out there against the Stamps this game. Winnipeg, Edmonton is the third game of the week. The second half of the Saturday doubleheader. Nick Dembski hasn't practiced the first 2 days this week with a non-injury related designation, so not sure exactly what that one is about, but we'll see if Nick Dembski finds his way into the lineup. Carrick Weekfall, on the other hand, after missing last game, is full participant in practice and should be back in the lineup this week for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And on the Edmonton Elks, a couple of defensive injuries. Nick Anderson, Jared Brinkman, Robbie Smith are 3 big names on the defensive side of the ball, and they've all been limited after missing some time. And I have no updates on the Ottawa-Montreal injury reports because their first day of practice is Thursday, with the game being on Thanksgiving Monday. So unfortunately, arguably one of the games, like Ottawa's QB situation maybe, that I'm most intrigued by, we're not going to have that info when the week kicks off here, which sucks a little bit. How are you approaching things from a fantasy perspective this week, Adam, with that Monday game, given it's 2 days after anything else?
Yeah, well, what I'm looking at right now is I think I'm going to just drag out my plays a little bit. I don't like picking a lot in this first game, mainly because of injury. And that's because mainly one of the biggest players I really want in that first game could possibly be hurt. I don't know. It was pretty scary when they put Myers on there. Calgary Hamilton. Yeah, that's another one that, like I said, I'm looking at picking maybe 1 or 2 players from there if I can. But Montreal right now, they got somebody I really do want, but I don't know if I want to wait that long and see what happens. Like it's going to be strategy because I want to see what my opponent is doing this week before I go and jump 2 feet in on the quarterback that I really want this week. So again, I'm going to have to play this. I hate to use a baseball term, but I got to play my bullpen a little bit and kind of watch what the opponent's doing and play into what I need to do to try to win the week. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens here, but definitely I'm not looking at. Well, there's some players. I can't say I'm not looking at nobody at the first game of the week, but yeah, I'll let you know more what's going on here later on.
Yeah, it's a little tough because Ottawa has so many good receiver options there, right? Their big three: Justin Hardy, Braylon Addison, Eugene Lewis, typically great options. Montreal, you've got some great options in Philpott and Sneed going on there. Davis Alexander as well. Potentially the cheaper running back in Scott the Third. And you don't want to just leave yourself in a hole going into the Monday game. Granted, there are enough different options. Like, I don't know if I would trust myself to leave it as like Scott the Third is my only option potentially from that game because he's a lower salary and I might not have somebody notable to switch to. But if, say, I'm playing one of the top end guys like a Tyler Sneed at $14,500, well, if any fluke thing happens in practice over the first few days of the week, I can at least still switch to very viable options in this game. So this matchup in particular, I think, has enough different options that I'm not too concerned with the Monday game. And if you're playing in a head-to-head league, like Adam's still playing, you're still alive, Adam, in the playoffs, in the podcast league. We'll talk about that more at the end of the show as well. Yeah. I think that's perfect opportunity where people might be shying away from that game to kind of leave a piece or two for the end and adjust and go either play the safe play or go big or go home.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's kind of my plan so far, but gosh, there's a player in early week that I also want. And sometimes you got to take some cheaper plays early if you can as well. We'll let you know more on that later on.
Oh, we'll probably let you know more about that right now because it's time to get into our second segment here, which is our CFL Fantasy lineup draft for the week. If you're playing CFL Game Zone Fantasy where you've got your $70,000 budget, you're trying to mix and match pieces to fit into your lineup, we're each going to draft unique ones here today as we have for the last few weeks. We'll go back and forth. Whoever snake draft format, whoever starts the round off, the other person must pick from the same position as well. Last week out, we had a 3-person draft. Trey was here as well. That was our first 3-person draft of the season. I took home the victory with 138.3 points. You guys left me, well, Adam didn't really have a choice, but I got left Nathan Rourke as my captain, and he once again delivered the victory there. But Adam, you came up pretty close behind. Bo Levi Mitchell did really well. Keon Hatcher, Greg Bell, and that Ticats defense with a ridiculous 18 points last week. You had 133.8. Trey had a rough week. Nick Arbuckle was his captain. That's impossible to come back from when your captain puts up 0 points because he gets injured on the first play of the game. So he
could have been worse. That's the other thing. He could have been worse with his pick on the captain.
That is true. Drew Brown scored less points than Nick Arbuckle did. So, yes, Drew Brown with the unfortunate negative point total last week. All right. Since it was so fun to do last week, we're going to decide the draft order the way we like to decide draft orders here with a good old-fashioned duck race, Adam. Just the two of us in the duck race here. 20 seconds on the clock. Winner gets first overall pick in this week's draft. I've got the Santa hat on, feeling a little festive here in early October. Adam, you got a red duck here, number 2, with a nice little fancy pattern on it. And we'll start the duck race here to see who gets first overall pick in this week's draft.
That red duck's looking pretty good all of a sudden here.
It's starting out strong early.
Yeah,
maybe I set the timer longer than I should have.
Oh, here comes Team Ryan. Of course, here comes Team Ryan at the end.
And looks like it is Team Ryan. Santa hat was good luck, I guess. Santa's bringing me the first overall pick in this draft for Christmas this year, or for Thanksgiving, I guess. Let me get it set up here. I'll get the board set up for us. I got to switch a few things in order to adjust that lineup. But yeah, first pick on the board. Can't say I'm as excited about it this week as I would have been in past weeks because the BC Lions are on a bye, which, as I joked in the Discord community earlier today, that now this is not, we're not playing, we have to play actual fantasy football at this point in time. It's no longer just who can fit the most BC Lions in their lineup.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's when the real challenge becomes a challenge now. So pretty much if you could have fit Justin Hardy, Keon Hatcher, and Nathan Rourke in a roster, you could pretty much pick up $2,000 players for the rest of it and make probably a pretty good run. Now, yeah, there's none of that. So this is when it really matters, and that's when it becomes playoff time. So we're gonna see what happens here.
I lost my fantasy matchup this week in the playoffs in the CFL Podcast Fantasy League to shout out to the CFL Outsiders who stacked Nathan Rourke, Keon Hatcher, Justin McInnes, and their two running backs were Thomas Bertrand Hudon and who was the other really cheap one? Ludovic Choquette, the backup running back of the Calgary Stampeders. So basically just a bare bottom play to fit the rest of the lineup in. And yeah, they smoked me because the BC Lions are such a fantasy cheat code. So can't play that this week, which makes it a real interesting play. I'll kick us off here in the draft. Without Nathan Rourke available, there's a few different quarterbacks I'm interested in, so I don't feel the need to jump there right away. Wide receiver, I'm kind of iffy all over the place too, so I'm going to jump to my favorite play here and start us off with running back, and I am going to go with Greg Bell of the Hamilton Tiger Cats at $15,000. I know I'm probably going to need to fit a $15,000 running back in no matter what. Some of the talk today in the Discord was Greg Bell or Justin Rankin, who's the one to have. I really like Greg Bell. The Stampeders give up near tops in the league in rushing yards. They give up the highest average number of catches and receiving yards to starting running backs in the CFL. We know Greg Bell likes to get involved through the air. He's got that consistent workload on the ground lately. And he's had more than 10 points in every single game this season, I believe. So I can almost guarantee that I'm going to get a good week out of Greg Bell, and I might just get an amazing week out of him any given week.
Yeah, no, that's a really good pick. I mean, I've been winning games with Greg Bell as my running back, and that kind of sucks that I can't pick him up this week. However, I'm going to pick up a different guy that really usually picks up his game during when it gets cold out. And when there's critical games, you got to give him the football, and I think they know that. So give me Brady Oliveira for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Look, he had a big game against the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and that's why they won that game. I think he got 19.1 points. He's getting going, and if the Winnipeg Blue Bombers want to still host a playoff game, this is how they're going to do it. They have to beat Edmonton. It's a must-win game for them, and when it's must-win, you got to get the ball to Brady O. So I could see them handing him the ball a lot this week. I would be very impressed to probably pick him even on my regular lineup right now because I think he's that good, and I think that he deserves what's going to come to him here. Edmonton sometimes can be a little weak on the run game as well. So, hey, they've been really good lately, but this is a motivated and very motivated Winnipeg Blue Bomber team. I'm going to go Brady Oliveira.
I really don't know what to expect from this Bombers offense because they dropped that 40 points on the Ticats a couple weeks ago before the bye. And if you go back to when they played Edmonton earlier this year, that was when Zach Collaros had his ridiculous 5 touchdown pass game, was it, or something like that? Why was I thinking 5? It was 3. Okay, it was 334 yards and 3 touchdowns, but they put up a lot of points, and I think we're on a ridiculous pace in that game. So, yeah, I don't hate it. I mean, Brady Oliveira, outside of that one Chris Streveler 3 completion game, has had 4+ catches in 5 straight. So he's going to get that workload through the air as well as on the ground. All right, you kick us off snake draft format. So you kick us off with round number 2 here. What position are we going to next?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the let's go with the quarterback. I probably should be taking something else, but you know what? I really want one guy this week, and he is a Montreal Alouette, so it's a little bit late. So give me Davis Alexander. He's undefeated, and he's playing Ottawa. Montreal's still trying to play for a home play for a first place. I believe they still have a chance of getting that first place
They do, yeah.
if Hamilton loses essentially, I think it is Montreal wins out. I think there's still a chance for the Alouettes to get it. So they're playing for something. And Davis Alexander, I mean, how could you go wrong with the kid? 9-0, hasn't lost a game yet since he's played in the CFL. No, honestly, I like it. So why not pick up Davis Alexander? The only other option, maybe, and I'm sure you're going to talk about him in about 2 seconds after I'm done this, but you know what? Yeah, it was between one of the two, but going way east and definitely late in the week for my quarterback. So, yeah.
Yeah, Davis Alexander is in my top 2 plays of the week, most likely as well. Really need more touchdown passes out of him, though. It's my only concern. He only has 1 game with more than 1 on the season. It doesn't help that Shea Patterson took 3 on the goal line last week, but he's got a little bit of mobility. He's thrown for 300 plus yards in 3 of his 5 starts this season. One of the ones where he had 250, he left the game injured. So, Montreal's a team that's going to throw the ball. So I do not hate the Davis Alexander play. I think it is one of the top quarterback plays of the week. I can't pick Nathan Rourke. Can't pick Nick Arbuckle because he's injured. So that kind of leaves, Bo Levi Mitchell is the obvious choice here against the Stampeders. I'm going to take Bo. I'm going to go a little bit Hamilton heavy here early in the draft, and that is potentially a little worrisome for myself. I don't love stacking an entire team unless it's the PC Lions, who are just unstoppable offensively, because I can see situations, but I have a hard time seeing situations lately where the Stamps shut them down, especially with a guy like Damon Webb potentially not playing this week. Some of the other ones we talked about, I think it was Derek Moncrief maybe not being out there on the defensive side for the Stamps. Moncrief is on the Stamps, right? I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Just had to make sure of that because that would have been awkward if not. Looking at the other options, like if it's not Alexander, if it's not Bo Levi Mitchell, Cody Fajardo doesn't light it up every single week. He's a pretty conservative player. Trevor Harris is going to sleep in the second half, probably. As much as I'm a little bit nervous for, as much as I think the matchup with the Argos could lead to some great points for Trevor Harris, he's kind of been a little iffy ever since Labor Day. So I don't love that direction. Vernon Adams Jr. has had his struggles. Zach Collaros, I think I joked in the Discord earlier today that I'm not allowed to recommend Zach Collaros as a fantasy play without being wrongfully accused of identity theft, because I've been saying you should never pick Zach Collaros in fantasy football. If you want a discount, you could go Drew Brown. Personally, I would love to see Dustin Crum start at quarterback this week and the rest of the season for the Ottawa Redblacks. I think if Ottawa is actually serious about Drew Brown being their franchise quarterback and their guy going forward, they have no business putting him out there with that offensive line for the rest of the season and letting him get hurt, which has happened several times this year. So I think Dustin Crum should play. The problem is we're not going to get that knowledge until too late in the week, so I'm not going to save the money for Dustin Crum here, and I will take Bo Levi Mitchell as my quarterback. And I'm assuming that's the guy you thought I was going to take.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, pretty much for me, it was one of the two. I mean, I could have picked Davis Alexander. I could have picked Bo Levi. Either way, I'm getting one of the best quarterbacks, I think, in this week by picking one of them. That being said, watch Trevor Harris absolutely pick apart the Toronto defense and get 40 points. Nah, I'm kidding.
Also, Jared Daggy is $5,000. I'm kind of tempted. That's not a
bad option. Yeah.
I'm kind of tempted especially because I'm out of the playoffs in all my leagues, so I'm just playing for fun here down the stretch for the most part. I'm kind of tempted with Jared Daggy. My only concern is, yes, even though the Riders' defense is banged up, that defensive line and linebacking core for the Riders is going to be a nightmare for Jared Daggy to deal with, just like Hamilton was last week. And I could see him being on the ground quite a bit in that game. So I'm not going to take him in this draft. But as I kick off round 3, I am going to take a teammate of his that is just too good not to pick every single time in the draft at his current price of $7,000. It's Spencer Brown, who's put up, he has only had 10 or like 8 or 7 carries. And I'm just trying to find his stat line here. Got to scroll through a lot of Toronto running backs. They've had a lot this year. 7 carries, 8 carries, 8 carries in his last 3 games isn't super encouraging, but 9 targets and 7 targets in his last 2 games is what I really like to see. And against the Riders defense, I'm not really concerned about his rushing totals. I more am looking to feast on the fact that the Riders give up the most targets in the CFL to starting running backs. And if Daggy gets as much pressure on him as last week, he's going to need to do dump pass after dump pass to Spencer Brown. So at $7,000, I think that's a cap saving that can produce equally as good as any of the $15,000 guys.
Yeah, I agree. I've gone honestly for the price of it and everything else. Spencer Brown's an awesome pick out of Toronto. And I mean, the points are just been crazy for a quarter or for a running back that just got into the league here. Honestly, he's been looking really good for the Toronto Argonauts. That means I got to go with my really cheap option for the running back position because I got some other players that I really want to get. And I think he'll get some good points against the Ottawa Redblacks. It's another Montreal Alouette. I'm going to go with Stevie Scott the second. $4.9 thousand, very cheap play. Should get you some yards. That being said, I mean, take a look what happened to Travis Tice in the game against Saskatchewan. Everybody picked him, and then, yeah, he's injured. So let's hope that doesn't happen again. But that being said, Ottawa usually is pretty good against the run. So this is a more of a play because I want some cheap dollars and need some cheap dollars to get what I want later on down the road. So that is the pick there. I'm going to go next with let's see here.
Just while you think there for a second, I'll just chime in on Stevie Scott the third.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, Montreal's all the talk has been about how they are a pass heavy team and they never run the ball. And it's 3 games that he's been in the lineup, 19 carries, 13 carries, and 12 carries for him. He does get a lot of receiving work, which makes him not a high-end fantasy value. He's good for the price because he's super cheap. But you love that rushing work all of a sudden for Stevie Scott III and them starting to commit to the run game a little bit. Means more opportunities, means more chances to deliver points.
Yeah. Makes sense. So I'm going to go next because I'm trying to go cheap here and try to get my cheap plays while I can get them. And this is probably a good strategy because I think it'll make Ryan kind of maybe sweat a little bit. I'm going to go with the Ottawa Redblacks for my defense. And again, it's not because the Ottawa defense is good, and I don't think they will be. I'm going with them because they're $4.9? Yeah, $4.7 thousand. So, yeah, that's the main reason why I'm picking them right now and trying to get them in as I do this. So, yeah, go ahead and you can pick a defense here, Ryan. I know how much you and me both sometimes value our defenses.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Ottawa, I like the cheap play, although I don't like them as much against Davis Alexander, who protects the football pretty well. Other ones I'm considering, Hamilton against Calgary. The Stamps, I don't think they give up a ton of sacks, but the Hamilton defense was tenacious last week against the Argos. Or the other one I'm considering is going upper echelon of price, and I might do it here just to see how the rest of this draft plays out. I already took a discount with Spencer Brown at running back. You know what? Give me the Saskatchewan Roughriders defense at $9,600 here this week. I'm going to try it out. You know, part of this show is highlighting different plays for people. We typically highlight the base level defensive play, but give me the Riders defense. They have delivered quite a bit lately. 17 points last week, 7 the week before. They had that dud against Montreal, but 10 plus points and 4 of 5 before that. They have been the highest scoring defense in fantasy football for the most part lately. And yeah, the price is expensive and it might not work out with all the injuries to them. But if Jared Daggie's going to throw the ball 49 times a game, Jared Daggie's probably going to throw 2 or 3 interceptions in that game. And maybe the Riders even take those back to the house. So I don't know. Do you think I'm crazy for taking your defense in this matchup at that price?
Absolutely not. I mean, if you've got the room and you can afford to do it, take the Rough Riders defense. I think they're ball hawks. They like to make picks in their secondary. Brooks has been looking really good for the Rough Riders. Again, the linebacking core is still pretty well all there. No, honestly, I like the pick for the Rough Riders. I just know that I have a hard time trying to afford other players, like 3 other players I still have to get into, uh, and still try to get enough budget to make it work. So that's kind of why I'm looking at going cheaper on my option. But I do like the riders. If you can do it, do it.
Yeah, well, part of the reason I want to go this direction is because I want a chance to highlight some of these value plays at receiver this week because I'm not that sold on the top end guys necessarily without Hatcher McKinnis is normally a given, right? Now you have the likes of you have Snead and Philpott going up against Ottawa, who's actually a very good defense. You have Ottawa's quarterback situation is a little bit shaky. You have a lot of unknowns, crowded receiver rooms. The Argos receivers, what are they going to do with Daggy? So I don't mind taking some of these discounts at receiver this week, and I think some of them are very juicy and ones that I want in my lineup. And we'll start off with one of those. I'm going to make a triple tie cats here and take Keandre Smith, as I have, I think, in most drafts that we've done here, because his price is now down to $6,000 after he put up 15 points last week. He's had 3 dud performances, I would say, in his last, let's see how many games here, 11 games where he's finished under 10 points. But other than that, 8 of his last 11, he's finished over 10, and he's had games of 15 plus like 6 times in there. At a $6,000 price, you can't go wrong with that. Like if you're getting 9 points, I'm happy with that. This is a cheap receiver who is getting the target share, getting the quarterback play of an elite receiver who should be rostered if you need a discount play. So give me Keandre Smith.
Makes sense. I mean, if you've got if you need to make a value play, yeah, Keandre Smith has been very good this whole season. Honestly, still very cheap for what he should be. I think he should be more money than what he has been.
His price went down again after a good performance.
Exactly. And I'm guessing you're going to talk about another wide receiver later on from Hamilton in the value play. So I'm not going to go for that one. I'm going to go for one that right now is questionable on the Rough Riders. And the main reason is he's been having great games pretty much all season long. I'm going to go with Dante Myers for the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. Had 27.8 points last week. 21.9 against a losing effort against the Montreal Alouettes. Overall, has been looking really good for the Rough Riders. Most of the season, whenever he seems to get the football, I like Dante Myers, and especially right now, they can't seem to get some other guys going quite yet. Like Sam Emilus has not done a whole lot since coming back from injury. Keon Schaefer-Baker looked okay, but Toronto's banged up. They're going to be on the football field quite a bit, my opinion, because of the injury to Arbuckle. They're going to have to be on the field quite a bit because they're going to be throwing and probably ending up getting picked off or anything quite a bit. And that means that the defense for the Argos is going to be out there. So I'm thinking Dante Myers is going to get open a few times here. So give me Myers in this pick as well. So any thoughts on Dante Myers?
If he's in the lineup, of course, he's been explosive. I think Keyshawn Johnson has been the more stable guy of the solid producer nonstop. Myers has been a little boom bust in his last 3 games under 10, but then 2 games of 20 plus points in there. So I still never know what to make of if this Riders receiver room is going to give us clarity on who the go-to guy is, but Myers certainly has the big play potential. And just looking at his matchup against the Argos this week, tough matchup at his position, honestly, on the season, but not a lot of right wideout score points. That's kind of skewed that way, whereas I think he's one of the best in the league. So I think he could be a little bit matchup proof in that one. There we go back to you for another wide receiver, or maybe you'll take a running back in your flex.
Yeah, it's been tempting to look at a running back. I've been trying to figure out how to make this play work because I would love to take Tyler Snead, to be honest with you, in this play. That being said, he's darn expensive at $14,500. If he's not hurt and nothing's wrong and he's ready to go and nothing happens during practice, it's a good move. If you're going to keep that much money, though, at the end of the week, yeah, I don't know. I'm starting to get a little nervous about making that play because that means I'm probably going to take a very cheap receiver or flex play afterwards.
My counter argument would be Tyler Snead is more expensive than Tyson Philpott. So if all of a sudden he shows up on the injury report, you switch to Tyson Philpott and you're going to still have a pretty good day.
Yeah, it's saving you about $500.
Yeah,
but $500 is $500. You never know when you could need it. Oh, what the heck? Give me Tyler Snead, and this means I'm going to be taking a very, very cheap play to finish up this draft, I believe. So,
all right, we got Tyler Snead at $14,500. Let me pull up the stats sheet here to take a look at on Tyler Snead. I think he's lower down on the list here. Was wide receiver 4 last week. The wide receiver 5. I don't have it actually on the screen, Adam. You can come back on the screen here. I think you. Oh, there you go. Either I switched it or you switched it. He was wide receiver 4 last week with 19.5 points, 12 targets, 8 catches, 115 yards. He's been a top 5 wide receiver in 4 of his last 6 games. Yeah, Tyler Snead has been one of the most underrated players in the CFL this season and continues to be such. All right, so you got $3,200 left for your flex. I've got $17,400 for a wide receiver in a flex, so I can't afford one of the top tier options. So I'm going to go to another guy that I was worried you were going to take, but I'm very happy you're not, and that's Ontario Wilson of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, who I may have had last week or the week before. $7,000 still seems to be incredibly cheap for a guy who has put up 12 plus points in 3 of 4 games since he's been back in the lineup. Target share dropped off a little to what I don't like it to be. Only 6 targets in his last 2 games, but he has some big plays. Zach Collaros' MO is to launch it down the field. He's not the nickel and dime type quarterback. So if Wilson gets 3 or 4 of those targets and makes plays happen with them, then I think he's going to produce absolutely for the price in a decent matchup against the Edmonton Elks.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that Ontario Wilson, they got to get him going for the playoffs as well. So you got to expect a few passes his way, and usually that means deep passes. I think Ontario Wilson's kind of their deep threat. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes for the Bombers, but definitely like the pick.
So now I've got $10,400 left for my flex play. I'm looking through all the options here. I don't love a ton of them at this price, honestly. So maybe I would, change my mind, do a little bit of shuffling. I probably would change off of the Saskatchewan defense at this point and not go that route. I think this is a benefit of, going through this draft live here, as you see the thought process and kind of having to switch things out. 2 guys I have in consideration could go Jareth Stearns against Edmonton with Winnipeg, but that would be back-to-back members of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I don't love that. This guy has kind of dropped off in recent weeks, but last week he had 8 catches or is on 9 targets for 97 yards, and we talked about Jarrett Daggy might be throwing the ball quite a bit. Give me Deshaun Brissett against the Saskatchewan Roughriders from the Argos at $10,200. The price is way higher than I would want it to be, but he had some success earlier in the season. I'm banking on that high volume, meaning he gets involved. And at middle slot back against the Riders, let's see what the matchup looks like there. It's actually not the best matchup. So, I'm kind of making do with the price available to me at that point. None of the other options really scream exciting to me at the price. So I'm just going to fill it up here with the likes of Deshaun Brissett and hope he gets a couple long plays.
Yeah, no, I think it's a decent play. I'm not sure it's the biggest play I probably would be making in my own roster for Deshaun Brissett. But you know what? Hey, it's a pick nevertheless. I honestly got goaded into Tyler Snead, and I kind of felt bad that I did it because there was other players that I really should have picked.
Would you like to change your mind?
Yeah, I would like to if I could.
Let's do it.
Okay, well then I'm going to take Keon Schaefer-Baker there.
Okay.
And now I got to look and see how much money I got left because I should have a little bit. Honestly, Schaefer-Baker last week looked actually pretty good against a Ottawa defense that's really kind of, well, again, they're suspect to the ball, long ball a little bit. I think he gives me, about 4.7 left now? I just got
You have 8,700 left.
8,700. Yeah, that's what I figured. I thought I had a little bit more money than that. Yeah, give me a minute here. I'm going to give you one actually crazy, but especially when you called it earlier this week or year on me when I picked them. But anyways, Keon Schaefer-Baker looked good coming back on his first game. Looked a little bit like he had some plays where he was trying to catch it right between his chest bone instead, or with his center chest bones instead of his hands. But you know what? I think after a week of practice and a little bit of calming down and realizing, hey, I'm not going to get hurt if I go out there, I think he's going to be pretty comfortable now. So I'm going to go with Keon Schaefer-Baker for the Rough Riders. And my last pick, he had a huge week last week, and they seem to want to start getting him going. Give me Shamar Bridges for the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
No.
You know what? I was trying to figure out my numbers earlier and try to make it work. And I thought Ryan was going to pick him up just because he had enough Ticats, and I thought he was going to go with the Ticat sweep almost, but I guess not. Honestly, Shamar Bridges, I think, is a good pick if you're looking for some value play. And honestly, Bo Levi looked like he wanted to get him going. So if he wants to get him going again, good luck.
My counter argument would be if I'm taking any cheap Hamilton receiver, it's Brendan O'Leary Orange after his play last week at $5,000. He had the 2 touchdown catches. Not a lot of targets, but I like him a little bit more than Bridges. But hey, I questioned it last time you took Shamar Bridges, and he scored a touchdown that week. So what do I know? Adam knows everything.
And actually, I beat Ryan that week with Shamar Bridges. So
yeah. When do you not beat me in fantasy football? Seems to be
fair enough. You know, everybody just steps up their game when they know it's Ryan. They know it's big game. They got to step up their game. So
apparently, if you were able to make a roster switch, I would actually like to make one as well here at the last minute. I am going to swap out Deshaun Brissett because as I was looking through the list, I found a receiver that I actually liked more, and I think it's important to bring up for the sake of people's consideration for the week. And I can't believe I'm going to the Calgary Stampeders. That doesn't feel great because I've kind of sworn them off, the receivers for fantasy. Give me Jalen Philpott at $9,100. You know, I haven't been high on them just because Vernon Adams doesn't complete a ton of passes a game. But the target share for Jalen Philpott, 10 targets, 12 targets in his last 2 games. He gets some rushing work as well. Could be good in a matchup against Hamilton in that capacity. Now, this is do or die time for the Stamps. The Stamps have a very real possibility, in my opinion, of missing the playoffs this year. So if they're going to get anything going, they got to hook up with Jalen Philpott, who has been, improved greatly so far this season. I like that one a little bit better than the Jared Daggy to Deshaun Brissett connection.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that if Calgary is going to have any hope, Jalen Philpott needs to be going. That being said, has there been any status report on Malik Henry? I seen you did release him in our own fantasy league, but has there been any update on Malik Henry?
I mean, like I said earlier, it's non-injury related is the designation on the injury report this week. So I thought he was going to be in the lineup last week and he wasn't. I would still be fine taking Jalen Philpott even if he was, because I don't think Philpott's workload is going to be cut into. I think he has such a unique skill set that they will continue to find ways to get him involved. Who is your captain, Adam?
My captain's going to be Davis Alexander. I think that he's probably going to get our most points out of it. And again, it's very rare that you never pick a quarterback as your captain. Lots of times you look at some of these other ones, and Keon Hatcher might be the exception if you really are desperate, but that also means that you could probably pick Nathan Rourke and you're going to put him as your captain for sure. So yeah, very rarely do you ever take a captain that isn't your quarterback. So
for sure. And on that note, I'm taking Bo Levi Mitchell as my captain. Thought about maybe Greg Bell, but in this matchup against Calgary, maybe a bit of a revenge game, so to say, for Bo. Can you still have those 3-4 years later? Maybe, I guess, but I'll take Bo Levi Mitchell as my captain as well. Bo Levi Mitchell, Greg Bell, Spencer Brown, Keandre Smith, Ontario Wilson, Jalen Philpott, and the Riders defense make up my lineup, whereas Adam's got Davis Alexander, Brady Oliveira, Stevie Scott III, Dante Myers, Keon Schaefer-Baker, Shamar Bridges, and the Ottawa defense to round out his lineup. Let us know in the comments. Let us know in the Discord or on social media whose lineup you think was best this week. And congrats to the Discord community. They finally got it right for the first time last week in picking me as the winner when I did win last week in the draft. Any honorable mentions for you that we haven't talked about, Adam?
You know what? Again, you could probably pick a couple of Montreal Alouette receivers if you're really looking at it. One that I can see is Austin Mack at 7.7 thousand. It's not a bad pickup, just because Ottawa again has not been able to cover a pass play as well as most plays. Running game, yeah, they're pretty dangerous, but in a passing game, I would probably take my chances and maybe go and take some Montreal wide receivers. Other than that, that's really the biggest ones I've got. If you really want to take a chance, I mean, you never know what day that Nick Dembski could possibly get a lot of footballs. He was on the non-injury related, did not practice in the first day of practice. I'll predict that he had a doctor's appointment, hopefully not a dentist appointment, because James Butler might still be in that chair. But you know what? Honestly, Nick Dembski might be an option if you got the money, but I wouldn't lean towards it as much. And you did bring up Brendan O'Leary Orange for the Ticats. I don't know if I'd want to go down that route 2 times in a row and hope that
That's fair.
hope he does something with like big. That's why I'm looking at Shamar Bridges and saying, hey, maybe he wants to move the ball around, get all of his receivers going. So yeah, it's time for Bridges to get going.
Yeah, other honorable mentions for me. I can make a case for basically any starting running back except Ottawa's this week. AJ Ouellette keeps scoring touchdowns. He's a touchdown machine. I don't see why he doesn't get another one against the Argos this week. We didn't even really touch on Justin Rankin much. I think the matchup is tougher for Rankin than Bell, and that's why I went Bell, because, Winnipeg gives up, I think, like 1 catch a game, 1.5 catches a game to running backs and only 11.4 yards per game through the air. So Justin Rankin, typically known as that receiving back, Winnipeg doesn't give up a ton in that category. Yes, he can still beat them on the ground and get some good yardage there, but at 15,000, I'd rather have Greg Bell against Calgary. Dedrick Mills, if you want $2,000 savings against Hamilton, I mean, Hamilton is the running back matchup you want to feast on every single week. And I think Mills continues to just get such a high volume of usage in that Calgary offense that I might strongly consider playing him. I think we talked about most of the receiver options. You can never go wrong with, Hardy, Addison, Eugene Lewis. One of those guys is going to go off, or 2 of them any given week. But again, they play in the final game of the week. And if he was out there and playing, Makai Polk had 14 targets last week. His price has risen up to $11,000. And I just realized neither of us picked Jake Herslow. Is that a surprise? Adam? You may be muted. Or we're having some technical difficulties. All right, well, I'm going to assume this is not me. I'll remove Adam, and then we'll let Adam re-add himself. Adam is gone. Thank you, Richard, in the chat. I'm sure he'll be back. He picked his team, and he's off to go, I guess. Maybe Adam's back in. But yeah, nobody picked Jake Herslow this week at $12,000. I thought about it. Quarterback situation makes me a little bit iffy. He did have the down week last week. I also didn't have room for any high-priced receivers, but if I do, Herslow seems like one to bank on any given week. Adam, are you back?
I think I am.
You are. Great. Yeah, I was just talking about, did Jake Herslow get into consideration for you this week? Seems crazy that neither of us had him.
Yeah, a little bit too much money is what I found this week, just because there's some other picks that I think would be a better pick, especially when you've got a non-proven and non-maybe relationship quarterback with Jarrett Daggy in there. If it was Nick Arbuckle in there, yeah, I'd be all over Herslow. But I think I changed it up mainly because of the quarterback change.
There was a question about Rankin in the chat as well. I just mentioned a bit ago that Rankin, I think, was in my honorable mentions, but I'd rather have Greg Bell at the same price between the two.
Yeah, I agree. I think Greg Bell, if you're going to pay 15, Greg Bell's a better pick than Justin Rankin, just because Rankin kind of is that real boomer bust guy. I mean, honestly, he might get 200 yards and have 3 touchdowns. You never know. But he
Yeah.
also could have maybe 20 yards and what do you call maybe 3 throws to him, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really tough to tell what he's going to get. So I think I'd be, you know what, he's going to be getting more consistent, but Greg Bell, he's going to get yards.
Yeah, and he's got that safe floor in there for sure. All right, now we get into the betting portion of the show, and I see a comment here, kind of excited about it. Let's get this money. So let's see if we can make some picks that people agree with here. Good week for us last week in the betting department, Adam and I. Both of us went, I think I went 6-0 and you went 5-1. Not so good of a week for Trey. I don't know what his actual record was last week, but I think you just got one of the over-unders wrong. But I got perfect across the board for myself last week. Looking at our overall records on the season against the spread, Trey is 39-30. Adam, you are 38-31, one game back of him. I'm 34-35 after a 3-0 week against the spread. I think I went 3-1 the week before that. I'm now one game back of 500, so getting back into respectable territory there. And we'll see if we can keep that on track this week. It's going to be tough with some of these spreads here. Over under on the season, Trey and I are tied at 36-34-1, above 500 there. And Adam, you are at 32-36-1. So I think if my math is correct, we're all above 500, but we would like to start getting into that 60% range there as well. Let's see what we can do with some of these lines this week. We start off with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, 10.5-point favorites over the Toronto Argonauts on Friday Night Football. Over-under is at 49.5. What do you think about this game, Adam? Riders win this matchup. I believe they clinch first place in the West Division. Toronto, this is a meaningless game for them at this point. They're just playing for pride.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Saskatchewan, you're right, is playing for first in the West right now. If they get this one, you can guarantee that Winnipeg game and the BC game after this, they're going to be sitting starters. Hopefully Trevor Harris, they put into a permanent nap for like 3 weeks. He kind of didn't look like it for the last 2. You know what? I really hate big spreads like this because I think the Riders are winning this game. I'm pretty certain the Riders are going to win. That being said, I don't know if they're going to win by 10.5 points. That means that they have to kick a field goal at some point. And, if there's any kryptonite with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, it's that they don't even know who's kicking the football this week. Brett Lawler has a back injury and he's questionable. And I don't think it'll be Campbell Fair because I don't think he could probably kick the broadside of a barn right now. Bad joke from a Rider fan. I didn't get picked for the open tryout for the Rough Riders kicking game, so it sucks. But you know what? I'm going to go with the Argonauts in this one for the over, for the 10.5, for the cover, because honestly, that's a big spread. And the Riders have proven that they played down to teams for the last little bit. They should have beat Edmonton. They should have ended up beating Montreal back in the day. Montreal just took it to them in the end. That was a complete blowout. But even Ottawa last week, that game should have been a complete blowout. It wasn't. I know it's the nighttime game for the Riders. They get pumped up for it. It's the Obsidian jerseys coming out. They're going to be pumped up for it. But you know what? And it's a game that they, again, can lock up first. But if we're going to do a little bit of the Thanksgiving, are we still doing our Thanksgiving?
Oh, yes.
What the teams are?
Yeah, it's Thanksgiving weekend. So what's this game?
Yeah, so I'll go on this game first. The Rough Riders are like that Thanksgiving gravy, essentially. They've got it. They know it's good. Everything is good about it, but you pour it on and you feel bad about it because it's just, you pour it on anything and you realize, geez, that's going to add the pounds to it. And eventually it's going to hurt you. So I don't know what it is with them, but yeah, it's been that kind of year for the Riders. Overall, though, enjoy the gravy while you can, Riderville, is what I'm trying to say. You got to enjoy
the gravy gets cold quick.
You know what? It's in thick. It's not good for you for a while, but man, it's sure tasty when it comes. And congratulations. They're probably going to get first in the West this week. Give me the Argonauts. Give me the under in this game here. I know it's 49.5, but I don't know. I don't like the Rough Riders getting a lot of points in this one, and the Argos aren't going to get much either. So under, give me the Argonauts. And for the Argonauts, what they are in the Thanksgiving meal, they're like the green bean salad that comes out, like, the green bean casserole, I guess I should say, that comes out, and nobody takes that. And by the looks of this year, nobody took the Argonauts, including right now Toronto. I don't think anybody's paying any attention to the Argonauts, unfortunately, especially when there's more attractive things, like the main course being the turkey, namely the Toronto Blue Jays. So, yeah, they're like the green bean casserole. They're just not being looked at all, unfortunately. And, it's usually the one that doesn't make it anywhere and ends up in the trash.
They're like the green bean casserole with a little too much cayenne pepper unnecessarily thrown in there for the fire that Ryan Dinwiddie brings to the post-game press conferences.
Yeah, fair enough. That's true too. Yeah.
That being said, go ahead with the coin here first, and then I'll get my pick.
For sure. It is going with the Toronto Argonauts. Probably they think that the cover, but it does outright. So
yeah, the coin picks the money line here. So the coin.
Bold prediction.
Fitting for the coin, which is money, to pick the money line picks every game. It's like that makes sense. I'm taking the Argos to cover here as well at 10.5. It's a scary spread. I think there's many ways this can go. The Riders could start slow enough that they don't blow them out on the board, or they could get far enough ahead that in garbage time, Toronto's throwing a lot and they're putting up a lot of points. I mean, they put up 29 on Hamilton last week, despite losing Arbuckle in the first play of the game. So I'm going to take Toronto here as well. I guess I got to split the difference between you and Trey on the over and the under here, and I'm a little bit iffy on it because the Riders haven't scored a ton of points lately, but the Argos defense also isn't good, and they can put up some points. Give me the over, but I'm not super confident in that one.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right, second game of the week. Let me change the banner here. A little more reasonable of a spread. The Ticats are, actually, I'm surprised it's not higher than this. The Ticats are 2.5-point favorites at home against the Calgary Stampeders. Over-underline is 56.5. Matchup for this game, I mean, Hamilton's first place in the East with 20 points currently. Montreal, 2 games back. A win here for Hamilton might clinch the division for them or make it awfully close. Whereas on Calgary's side, they really need the win. Calgary right now is third in the West behind the BC Lions and the Saskatchewan Roughriders. They are tied with the Bombers, and they're only 2 wins up on Edmonton for that last playoff spot. And they play Edmonton in week number 21 to end the season. So if Calgary can't get themselves back on track, which they really have struggled to do in recent weeks, they're possibly in danger of missing the playoffs if Edmonton can find a way to go on a run here and steal a couple of games down the stretch. So a lot to play for in this game. I'm going to take the Ticats to cover the 2.5-point spread. I really don't see, I think I would take this even at like a 5 or a 6-point spread. I don't have faith in the Stamps right now. I don't think their offense moves the ball enough, and their defense can't seem to shut anybody down and now has some injuries to boot. Bo Levi Mitchell, Greg Bell, Kenny Lawler should feast all over this Calgary defense, which is why I'm going to take the over on 56.5 points here as well. That's a huge point total. It's scary to take the over on that, but I think both teams will be able to put up a few points in this game, and Hamilton might put enough up to hit the over by themselves potentially. What do you got, Adam?
Well, first of all, we'll go through the Thanksgiving portion of this here. The Calgary Stampeders are like your dressing. When it's going and it first comes out, it's nice, it's moist, and it tastes real good. But then you remember that it's still made of dry, old, stale bread. And unfortunately, the Calgary Stampeders are starting to turn into that dry, stale bread that everybody really doesn't like. It's been a tale of 2 seasons kind of for the Stampeders. And of course, that's kind of like Thanksgiving dressing. I mean, that's kind of the way it works. So the Hamilton Tiger Cats, they're like that pumpkin pie that you get at the end of the day. There have been just, tasty from right at the beginning. They started off a little bit slow. And of course, you never have your pumpkin pie at the beginning of the season or at the beginning of the meal. You have it at the end. And right now, the Ticats, boy, that win against Toronto made them really look good. Yes, they've had their moments, and there's some times when you don't really want the pumpkin pie. You'd rather probably have maybe a piece of cheesecake or something. But you know what? There's a lot of times where Hamilton has been right there, and it's always reliable, and it's always a part of your Thanksgiving meal. Suggestion, no, don't eat the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Eat a piece of pumpkin pie instead. But honestly, if I have to pick between old stale bread or dressing, essentially, and a piece of pumpkin pie, I'm going to go with the pumpkin pie. I'm going to go with the Ticats in this one here. You know what? They're at home. It's an under 3-point game. I think the Ticats are just going to outright win this one. I think it's going to be probably a pretty one-sided game. The Calgary Stampeders are playing for, just to keep their playoff lives alive. So that's important. But they honestly never do play good in Hamilton. For the last few years, whenever you watch them, when they go to Hamilton, they aren't the best of teams. So give me the Ticats. I'm going to go with the 56.5 points. Oof. Yeah, I'm going to go with the over on this one, actually, which it sounds a little crazy. But honestly, Calgary's got to get a lot of points, and they know it. And so does Hamilton. I'm going to be very interested to watch that D-line for Calgary to see if they can actually try to stop Greg Bill. If they can't, it could be a long day for the Stampeders. But, yeah, Hamilton in the over and the coin. It is going with the Calgary Stampeders as well. It's going for the underdog week for the coin so far.
All right. And you said you were taking the over there, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to take the over.
All right. We're agreeing across the board because Trey also took Hamilton and the over in this game. So we think there's a lot of points to be had, which feels pretty good to me as somebody who had 3 members of the Ticats in his fantasy lineup that we drafted earlier. If we think there's going to be a lot of points on the board. Winnipeg, Edmonton, Battle of the West Division, 2 worst teams in the West Division. Edmonton at home, 3.5-point underdogs. The Bombers, 3.5-point favorites on the road. 53.5 the over-under on this game. Winnipeg at 8-7, 4th in the West due to the tiebreaker with Calgary. Edmonton again earlier, 6-9, so they kind of need a win here, I believe, to stay alive. It's going to be pretty tough. Well, if Calgary loses, I think they can still catch Calgary, but that would be pretty much it if they lose this game. So big game for both of these teams here. What Thanksgiving foods would you associate with them with?
Well, so far for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, I'm going to resort them to the cranberry sauce. They're a thing that is kind of getting bitter, and it's going to be not as sweet as it should be, but it's still there, and it's always there, and you know that it's probably still going to end up on your plate at some time this season. So, yeah, that's what I go with for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. The Edmonton Elks has been a very tough one. They're probably kind of like that turkey that you took out of the oven a little bit too early. They're just about there. They're just about ready. You just need to put them back in for a little while longer and they'll be fine. But if you look at this receiving core, it really hasn't produced a whole lot this season, even though it was really meant to. And it's kind of like, again, that turkey that you just look at and say, it's just not quite done yet. So if I put it back in the oven, when I bring it back out, which would be like next year for the Edmonton Elks, it should be actually pretty tasty. So
see, I was going to argue that the Elks are the turkey that you try to cook in the oven, but you forget to turn the oven on until it's almost too late for dinner.
No, that's true too. That's a possibility as well. I'm just saying they're not quite done yet, Edmonton Elks. But, yeah, either one works. I mean, that definitely would be a good one too, I think, for the the forget to turn on the oven for the first 9 weeks. But, yeah, so on the picks here for this one, Winnipeg's playing hard and desperate, and so is Edmonton. I like Edmonton at home, to be honest with you, but 3.5 points isn't really much. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I think that they really, really do want to host a home playoff game and show that, hey, we can still go into Saskatchewan and possibly come home and play in the Grey Cup. They want to do what they can. And of course, Edmonton, I'm sorry, but like Ryan said, start the oven a little bit earlier next year. And I'm going to go with the under on this game here. I think it could be a pretty good defensive battle. Edmonton's been playing really good defense as of late, and so has Winnipeg playing a little bit better defense than they used to. Of course, they came off that big victory against Hamilton 2 weeks ago. So, yeah, give me the Bombers, give me the under, and the coin. This time here, it took the home team, the Edmonton Elks. So, yeah, coin's always taking the opposite of what I'm doing today. So,
coin has taken the underdogs on every single game so far. While you were giving your pick, I've been trying to scroll back and find when the last time the Edmonton Elks beat the Bombers was, and I ran out of time because you gave your pick already, and I didn't find it yet. So it was pre-COVID because, and I could be wrong, I've been scrolling through this pretty quick, but I do not believe the Elks have beaten the Bombers since before 2021. And I don't know when the last time was, maybe 2019, 2018. So yeah, I'm going to take Winnipeg on this one, as much as I think Edmonton could surprise them a little bit with their defense playing much better as of late. But I'm going to take the Bombers. I'm also going to take the under. Taking the under on Elks games has worked pretty well for me lately, in the sense that I think their defense is very underrated, and I think their offense is slow to start, and Winnipeg's defense could shut them down. That being said, I think Winnipeg games have the potential sometimes to just blow wide open because there's a lot of deep plays. They give up the deep ball. They throw the deep ball a lot. So I'm not entirely surprised if this hits the over, but I'll like the under on this one a little bit more. And if anybody in the chat or in our comments afterwards knows when the last time the Edmonton football team beat the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, I don't even know if they were called the Elks at that point. So we'll see if that tradition continues this week. Good old Thanksgiving tradition. Speaking of good old Thanksgiving traditions, it's the Monday game between Ottawa and Montreal. It's part of Thanksgiving weekend every weekend. I don't love it that we have 2 days after every other game before we get to this one, but I also don't love that Montreal is 13.5-point favorites at home. That is disgustingly large of a spread. Makes me want to just hide in the corner. I don't know what to do with this game, Adam. So tell us what Thanksgiving foods they are, and that might help me make my decision.
I don't know how it's going to possibly help you, but you know what? Especially with the over-under on this one. Oof, this is a pretty big one. I'm going to start with the Montreal Alouettes, though, first. They are this disappointing Thanksgiving meal until your favorite aunt shows up with her favorite salad. And if you give my implications there, your favorite aunt is, Davis Alexander with the favorite salad that gives you a very good chance of moving on to the Grey Cup. Because with that salad, you know what? The Montreal Alouettes has really looked great. Every time Davis Alexander comes back, that team plays around him. And if you have that proper salad, it can make a Thanksgiving meal go around that salad, and people rave and rant and everything else all about it. So that's why the Montreal Alouettes are that favorite salad from your favorite relative. The Ottawa Redblacks are the Chinese food that you order after your regular food is burnt to the ground and you can't get rid of it. Honestly, Ottawa, get some new coaches and get something done here. I'm sorry. The general manager needs to go, and this needs to be gone down completely. Go get a replacement. Get something better than what you've got right now. Honestly, it has not been fun for the Ottawa Redblacks. Watching Bobby Dice on the sidelines has just been terrible. So again, that would be like your burnt turkey that you really don't want. And then your savior, Rick Campbell, the Chinese food, shows up to kind of go and salvage what he can. Yeah, sorry, Ottawa, but that's what I could see out of that one. As for the pick, 13.5 points. Wow. 2-touchdown win.
It's easily the highest of the season.
Yeah, without a doubt it is. It's in Montreal. Yeah, no, I'm going to go with Montreal Alouettes. I don't see anything right now going Ottawa's way. I'm sorry, but Montreal has got this one. They need the win just to kind of keep up with Hamilton, if nothing else. And especially if Hamilton loses against Calgary, then Montreal's really going to be motivated. So, yeah, give me the Alouettes. Give me the 51 and a half. Yeah, give me the under on this game. Ottawa can score points unless it's Dustin Crum. I don't know who's in there for a quarterback even right now. So if it's Crum, this game could get interesting. And then maybe I might want to switch my pick to Ottawa. But if it's right now, if it's Drew Brown and they go back to Drew Brown, because it seems like Bobby Dice just kind of is doing whatever it takes to become replaced. You know what? Honestly, I could see this game here being an ugly blowout for the Alouettes. So, yeah, go like with that. And let me flip my coin. And the coin is going with the Montreal Alouettes as well. It's going with a big chance there. But you know what? It's going for outright, so it doesn't care.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's kind of a gimme there for the most part. Richard in the chat did the digging for us. November 3rd, 2018, the last time the Elks beat the Bombers, 33-24. Thanks for digging that up. So even further back than I expected it. This game is tough with the spread because I could see it going so many different ways in terms of total points for on the season. Like Montreal's averaging 24.4, Ottawa's averaging 24.3. Granted, Montreal did not have Davis Alexander for most of those. In the games that Davis Alexander has played, the Alouettes have won all of them by 18, 21, 10, 1, and 18. So 3 of those 5 have been above this spread. It's still a very high spread. I could see it being a case where Dustin Crum all of a sudden does come in and leads them to, a epic comeback, or at least brings it in close. I kind of want to go Montreal to agree with all of you guys, but I'm going to stick to my principles that when the spread is this large, I'm going to take the underdog Ottawa Red Blacks on here. There are just so many different possibilities for how this could end up as a success. They could catch up late in the game. They could keep it close throughout, right? Whereas Montreal, you really need them to be dominant from start to finish, not let Ottawa back into it if that's going to hit. So give me the Red Blacks here on the spread. Give me the under as well. I like that because I think both of these teams might not score a ton of points in this game. And hopefully we get like a 23-20 Montreal win, and then I'm right.
I do have one also for the BC Lions as well for the turkey
sure.
Thanksgiving. We got to have everybody involved. And obviously some of our BC Lion fans are in the crowd. They are like the Thanksgiving dinner that you didn't have to contribute nothing to. They're the tastiest ones. They're the best ones. And you know what? Lately, those are the ones that you really eat a lot at, because right now the BC Lions are eating away at everything that comes near them. They are feasting. So, you know what? Essentially, BC is the entire Thanksgiving feast. Hopefully, everybody has a good Thanksgiving. Yeah, I'm sure the BC Lions are going to be gorging on some turkey and having a good time as they watch the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the Calgary Stampeders and the Edmonton Elks duke it out for any position in the CFL West.
I like it. Did you come up with all of these by yourself?
I just ad-libbed every one of those. I did not even think about. I was looking at the
really.
Game, I was just trying to think of it. Yep, not a single one. I just ad-libbed that whole one.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you had any AI assistants because that was really well thought out. Kudos
not even close. I just made it up as I went along.
That might be up there as one of the top 5 most shocking moments in this podcast history. I thought you had those pre-written, pre-planned. I figured, you know what? It's Thanksgiving weekend. Adam's probably busy with a ton of farming stuff. He's going to make sure he shows up here to give his Thanksgiving associations. And you delivered. Well done, Adam. Once again, one of my favorite segments every single year. A true Thanksgiving tradition. All right. Before we round out our show, do we want to talk about Fantasy League updates to wrap things up here? It's playoff mode. You got your updates for the Podcast Network League?
Yeah, the Podcast Fantasy League's in the semifinals now. oddly enough, it was a whole league of upsets pretty well. Almost everybody in the top tier got upset. Of course, Ryan, you mentioned earlier, you got upset by the CFL outsiders. Trey, he got upset by Rouge Radio's Dults. And of course, a Piffles podcast upset as well. Steve actually gets upset by the newcomer, Greg on Sports, which Greg doesn't need your sympathy or your pity follows, just so you guys know. So don't follow him. I don't know. That's what he would say. So thought I'd throw it in there. Anyways, I played Clay over from the Argos fan cast, and yeah, kind of destroyed him. And that was mainly because he had Nick Arbuckle. I kind of felt bad, but hey, I did give him an out. If the Genius Sports decides to change the points by like 85, I think it is, or something like that, and they give him 85 extra points and give him the win, I will wear an Argos hat and go to Mosaic Stadium tomorrow, or on Friday, and probably get ridiculed like there was no tomorrow. But you know what? I think I'm pretty safe on that one there. So it ends up with our semifinals. I'm the highest seed, so I get the lowest seed. That would be Greg on Sports from the Piffles podcast. And Rouge Radio Adults is going to take on the CFL Outsiders. Of course, winner gets all the jelly beans to give to a local charity or benefit for whatever they decide. I still am trying to think of which one to give mine to. It's down to 2, I think I've got kind of lined up. If I make it that far, Greg on Sports has been like the absolute Cinderella story. At one time, he was in the basement right behind, well, not quite as bad as Horseman Ryan, but, not far from it. And now he's in the playoffs and he makes the semifinals. So the Cinderella story versus the, I hate being called the heavy favorite. I just do not like being called a favorite. So, yeah, I'm nervous. I'll tell you that. If you got some good suggestions for fantasy, I've got a roster kind of lined up and ready to go that I think is going to win. But definitely look for some insight from anybody in our Discord community. Make sure you check that one out. Ryan, do you want to run through the podcast Discord league?
Yep, I've got that one. Good luck to you, by the way, Adam. Carry the torch. Continue the tradition of the commissioner making the finals 3 or 4 years in a row now. So I guess maybe my greatest mistake was handing you commissioner duties, I suppose. That was my downfall. No, you've done a good job. Thank you for taking that over. In our Discord league, of course, Adam and I were out. We were playing each other for the People's Championship, which is basically the consolation round. And Adam beat me again, so I asked for a best 2 out of 3. So we'll keep that going this coming week. But in the actual playoffs, the rest of the CFC crew is out as well. Mike lost to our friend Brandon Sanders by about 5 points in his matchup, and Trey lost by about 70 because he also started Nick Arbuckle as his captain. So all 4 of us are out. 4 teams remain: Josh M and Brandon, No Good Noverby, and Waldo. Good luck to the folks in the Discord looking home to take top prize in a league that has been stellar across the board all season long. And finally, our draft league. We're down to the final 2 weeks because that ends in week 20 as well. I have pulled ahead in the standings over Trey once again by 9 points. And you're 9 points up on Mike for third and about 100 back of us. So I think it might be a little too late for you to catch up first and second, unfortunately, Adam, but you're still heavily in the race with Mike for third place. Last week, you had the top score, Adam, 110.8 points. I think you've had the top score, one of the top scores for many weeks in a row now. You just started slow to start the season.
Nathan Rourke. That's all I need to say.
Yeah, Nathan Rourke has been carrying your team for sure. I had 106.5, Mike 103.7. Trey impressively 94.4, despite a 0 from Nick Arbuckle, having to start Xander Horvath at running back because he had no starting running back for the week. Horvath got that long 10-point touchdown late in the game. That helped him out there. And having Keon Hatcher on the bench. And Jake Herslow having his worst week since he became a starter. And that's all because Liram Haralahu and the Hamilton defense combined for a whopping 38 points. So defense and kickers win championships, apparently. 2 weeks left in the season there. we'll see how that one plays out for this year's draft league. There was a quick question in the chat if you want to take like a 30-second answer to it, Adam. MOP conversation. Who's your MOP at this point with a couple weeks left? Nick Arbuckle's kind of out of it due to the injury. So I think it's safe to say it's between Nathan Rourke and Bo Levi Mitchell, most likely. Who do you give the nod to?
Oh, if it was the beginning of the season, it's for a full season, it probably should be Bo Levi Mitchell, to be honest with you. I mean, he's done some amazing stuff to get that Hamilton team from a doesn't make playoffs to a, oh my gosh, this is actually a team that could go all the way this year and be a full Grey Cup contender. That being said, Nathan Rourke is on fire. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He should be in the Hall of Fame already. He's playing like he's an MOP. He's making all his other teammates all the way around him way better. You know what? Between those two, it's a very tough decision. If I have to say right now, and I know I know he's on my team, but I'm going to go with actually Bo Levi Mitchell. It just ekes him out. It's not because it's controversial, just because Bo Levi Mitchell has had the most consistent season out of all of them. Nathan Rourke was injured for that little bit at the beginning, and that kind of maybe messed it up a little bit for him. And he did kind of start a little bit slower. Bo Levi Mitchell, first two games, maybe he didn't have the best against the Riders, and I'm not sure, was it Ottawa? And then he kind of went and turned everything around. That being said, he's got a lot more help with Greg Bell, and look at his receiving core. Nathan Rourke has a little bit less of a receiving core, though he has some big options as well, and has a great running back as well. So, you know, it's 1A, 1B, but right now the slight nod to Bo Levi Mitchell is my opinion. Ryan, argue me why Nathan Rourke is the MLP. You're muted. Still muted, Ryan.
It's usually not me that forgets the mute button. I was just so excited to talk about how Nathan Rourke is obviously the lock, in my opinion, for MOP this year, the way he's played. And I'll, of course, approach things from a fantasy standpoint, because that's where all my numbers and charts and stats lie. And yeah, that's skewed a little bit, but he's played 2 less games than Bo Levi Mitchell and has scored 40 more fantasy points on the season. He's been a top 3 quarterback every single week but one on the year, whereas Bo Levi Mitchell took a bit of a dip here late in the season, where he had weeks where he was the 8th best, the 5th best, the 10th best quarterback. So I think Bo has had a fine season. He's been very good at times. He's also had kind of down the stretch drive, they started committing more to Greg Bell in the run game, and then he hasn't really been as outstanding. Maybe that's just due to the opportunities, but all the talk is around Nathan Rourke. I feel like it's going to go to him. I would be shocked if it doesn't. All right, I think that's it for this week's show. Next week, we will be back with our Week 20 preview, and we'll do the draft again. We'll talk injury updates. We'll do our betting picks for those games as well. In the meantime, you can check out the Discord community. The link is in the episode description. It's free to join us over there. Come chat with us in between episodes. You can also follow us on social media at CF Countdown Pod on X or Facebook.com/CF Countdown Pod. Check out all the other great shows from around the Canadian Football Podcast Network as well at CF Pod Network on X. Alternative Football Network also at the official AFN on X or alternativefootballnetwork.com. Check out all the other great shows there. Adam, where can people find everything you've got going on?
You can find me at Adam Stewart 1. Usually right now I'm trash talking New York Yankees fans pretty much, but maybe not too much. You know what? They had a good season. Yes, I did say that right. They had a good season. Congrats to the Toronto Blue Jays. They're moving on to the ALCS to either face the Seattle Mariners or Ryan's Detroit Tigers. So, you know what? Follow along mostly for us in the Discord channel for all of our nonsense and tomfoolery in there. I mean, Ryan is going to go and be cheering his team all the way to the World Series and beyond. If he realizes what the World Series is yet, we'll figure that one out later on. But yeah, give me your thoughts also in the Discord channel when you get a chance of your favorite Thanksgiving analogies for each team. You got mine. We're gonna have those in the section here this week. So yeah, we'll give you, you can read mine later on if you want to, or if nothing else, make sure that you go and give us all a follow over on our X pages. Trey's at Trey MB Harness, and Mike is at Mike Garrell. I haven't heard from Mike lately. I got to figure out what that guy's up to. But yeah, Adam Stewart 1 if you want to check me out on X.
And you can find me as well at Cooper Trooper 42. I know what the World Series is, Adam. I just assumed we had already won that as the Detroit Tigers, but I guess not.
You don't win it in the wild card, Ryan.
Maybe next year.
And also, did you realize hockey started?
Oh, yeah, hockey started apparently yesterday. Who knew? It's that time of year where all the sports are starting. You know, I have hitched my wagon to the Detroit Tigers randomly for baseball. I need a random NBA team also to back with, you know, relentlessness. So for no particular reason other than give me a good idea. I picked the Detroit Tigers because Trey said they were one of the biggest underdogs in the playoffs remaining, and they're also are cats, and I like cats. So that was the reason I took the Tigers. So give me more fun reasons to pick an NBA team to support this year as well. As does that kick off soon? I assume it does. Did it already?
NBA? I'm not sure if it has kicked off yet or not. I honestly, and they don't call it kickoff there. They call it tip off.
See, I got to learn sports. It's still the preseason.
I just go and I'm a nerd. So
Tuesday, October 21st, the NBA season kicks off. So we still got some time there.
Got some time.
All right. Well, thanks to anybody who joined us live here tonight. Thanks, Adam, for joining me as always here. Also, whatever podcast platform you're listening on, we appreciate if you do all the fun things like comment, subscribe, rate, review, share the show with your friends, share it with your non-friends, share it with your favorite baseball team. Help us grow the show. We always appreciate that. On behalf of Adam and I, happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy this weekend's games. Thank you for listening. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.